Summers without water supply is becoming the new norm. Is it the onset of something much more serious?
I think it's much more serious.
What happens if we don't adapt quickly?
I would say the city will start declaring a water cut, which is a permanent time. We have to plan accordingly. I ask the first question to self is that, are we solving the problem?
Today we have with us someone who has spent over a decade making sure cities and industries don't run dry. This gentleman heads Thermax's urban water business and helps societies and municipalities recycle, reuse, and rethink water. Welcome to the show, Anand.
Thank you for having me on the show. Let me promise that I'll share as much as insight I know. So everyone on the show should know the facts and the best practice around the water subject.
Well, it's a privilege to have you here, and we look forward to an insightful and enlightening conversation. Anand, from Bangalore to Pune, Delhi to Mumbai, wherever I go, I hear about water scarcity. Summers without water supply is becoming the new norm. In your opinion, is this just a seasonal thing, or is it the onset of something much more serious?
I think it's much more serious. Why? Because the water scarcity is not just a future problem, it's already here. If you see, every city in India experience the water stress at any point of time in an year. And it's not just for us. As India is growing in the populations, the gap between water sources available and the demand is huge. And with that, water recycling is just not a choice, it is survival.
So essentially, what you're saying is that the tap running dry isn't an accident or bad planning, it's the new normal. What happens if we don't adapt quickly?
If we don't adapt quickly, then we are inviting serious problems to ourselves. I would say the city will start declaring a water cut, which is a permanent time. We have to plan accordingly. There is no water for farmer to grow the crop, and that will have a cascading effect in the market. Industry will dry because there is no processed water available. We are also inviting a health issue because then you will get more exposed to a deeper groundwater, and that will keep on you taking to a doctor's.
Anand, let's talk about your field of expertise. What, in your opinion, or in your experience, has been the biggest roadblock in water or especially wastewater treatment?
I would say the current time, the building the plant is no more a challenge. Operating them is a challenge today. Why it is important for urban community is when you treat the water through plants, one day you have a clean water, second day you have a dirty water. And that is where they do not see the consistency. When we talk about the infrastructure and technology, I think that is there to fix that problem of consistency of water, which is matching to the standard of, let's say, flushing or end use. That is where the whole tech play comes in. We do talk about IoT enabled plant, operations coming from the excellence, and when you combine both technology and operation excellence, that is where that tech gives the guarantee of having a consistent water which is matching the outlet quality norms.
Okay, so it's no longer just about having the pipes and pumps in place, but also like an overall system which acts like a brain that coordinates whether everything is happening on time, as per schedule, and as per the desired output or consistency. Can you give me an example where technology was a major contributing factor?
Sure, there are many such examples. Let me plot one of them which come to my mind just now. One society in Pune was having a sewage treatment plant, last sewage treatment plant. Unfortunate was that they were not able to treat the water in terms of quantity and quality both. And that is where they were using 40% of water supply from the tanker water. When we visited that plant, we fixed the root cause about non-performance, and we fixed that using a tech. And as you said about tech, we have deployed one set of automation retrofit that's allow plant to talk to our server, and server is managed by a team where they ensure that there is no critical point which is left unattended, and that is why they ensure there is no undesirable scenario. By fixing with both tech and operation excellence, we could make that plant uplift to the quantity and quality both, and that has now stopped society to take any water from tanker, and they have saved more than 40% of water. Not the only cost which they have saved by implementing this tech and retrofits, but we are proud now to say that we have converted that plant from liability to an asset.
That's certainly something to think about. Anand, when most people tend to shy away from sewage water, you've made a successful career out of it. And people are drinking wastewater in space. It's not much away in the future that we'll start having people drinking recycled water widespread in cities and countries as well. But somewhere, I must confess, the word recycled water feels a bit tricky. If it's so clean, why do people still think it's dirty?
So I would say it's mainly about mindset and the awareness in the urban lobby, where when you feel that the water is coming from the treated plant, that the same water which you have used and polluted, right? So when you have a tech available, certify through a testing and reports, people will start believing.
Okay, Anand, let's get to the fine print. Regulations are boring, they sound boring, but they ensure that actions really happen. Where do we stand in terms of regulations?
I think regulations day by day are getting stringent and tighter. If you see, government has started talking and taking the data from outlet of STP. They are directly putting online monitoring systems. The online monitoring system is plotting the data directly to that server. So that's the seriousness. Point number two, if you talk about even a society which is producing water or the sewage more than 200 and 300 KLD, they have a compulsion to recycle more than 70% of water there. So there is a forum, there is a strictness, but sometimes awareness is something which we see on the lacking part. If we talk about awareness and enforcement, both comes together. I think that is where I personally see that we will able to drive a major scale at the ground level in terms of execution of recycling and reuse as a subject.
Finally, the law is catching up with the leaks. But tell me, do state and central regulations ever clash? Or are the rules the same everywhere?
I've seen that there is no ambiguity on the norms, wherein I would say that the central norms are at a state level. But definitely, I would like to plot here. We have seen the states like Karnataka has spoken about much stringent norms compared to the central board. Why basically that has started? If you see, the major cities in that state is pressing the hard water scarcity, and that is coming not only the scarcity, but that is coming an unbalance with the society to sustain. Why? Because they have to buy water which is having a higher cost compared to recycling all the water cost on which they have taken an infrastructure. So considering that as an example, I think we should aim saying that irrespective of central government says anything, this is a central state government talks about the stringent norm, and they are plotting an example. If we don't look at that for our state, I think the time won't be much away.
Here's something I hear a lot: water is slowly becoming a privilege. What do you have to say about this?
I think that is where people have plotted that way, unfortunately. And that has come just because the water scarcity has become so much that we have seen people buying tanker water at a cost of 120 rupees per meter cube. But let me tell you another fact behind the recycling part of it. Thermax has a Earth Solutions. It's a branded name under water and wastewater, where Earth provides a digital enabled operation and maintenance. If I have to give you a maths, Earth is treating the water at just 26 rupees per meter cube. while you have heard that people are buying 120 rupees per meter cube. So that's a gap. So I am trying telling you is that the operation and maintenance, which is safe and reliable, is possible now. Technology has traveled. Operation excellence has built into a module. If someone experience that, they will start believing and bridging the gap of water scarcity and completely eliminating the dependency on the external water source.
This is certainly encouraging to hear because a lot of times it feels like we are living in some sci fi dystopian era where water is a prized commodity that's accessible only to a privileged few.
I think somebody has branded as a privilege. I've seen even a society where they have branded as, you have a premium water supply available. But that's a basic necessity, right? Water cannot be a luxury. It's a basic need. And that only can come with a today's limited water source. And that can only happen through recycle and reuse as a phenomena, keeping in the mind.
Everywhere I go, I hear this buzzword ESG. But when it comes to water, what does it actually mean?
I would say ESG is the term where the global has started looking into it. So, how it has plotted to my knowledge is that one side we are doing a business, but are we doing a responsible business? That means how are we impacting as an environment? And water comes to a biggie. This is at environment. We have seen companies now talking of recycling, reuse, and going for a zero liquid discharge. By and large, they are saying that they are cutting the environmental footprint. We have seen customers talking about ESG goals. So that means customers are talking to a company who are emphasizing and using in technology which is towards the ESG. Then they also talk about carbon credit footprint which is utilized by the solutions provided that. So today's world ESG is not just a aim, it's a responsibility for a business and to a citizen.
Interesting. So, recycling is not just about saving water, it's also about building your reputation as a company. Do you think ESG is driving real change or is it just like a mandatory checkbox?
To my sense is yes, it is driving a real change, but I think we need to scale up that to the speed so that every company start talking of ENC as a responsibility, protecting environment and do a fair business.
Anand, you've seen this problem up close and personal for years. If you could give me and the viewers who are watching this podcast one message about water, what would it be?
I would say treat water with a respect. You have seen whole subject we spoke about water scarcity, and if you don't treat the water with respect or with a senses today, you are inviting more problem for a generation to come. And if you see the real example which I would like to plot is that you or me going in the market, somewhere we are seeing that the water is flowing, right? Have we ever come one step forward to fix that problem, which may be a leakage, which may be water flowing? So I would ask and put a thought in everybody's mind that if we don't try to do something there, I think then the scarcity is never a subject we should speak.
Respect water. Well, that certainly resonates with me. Do you think small changes at a household level can really add up? Or does the heavy lifting have to come from big industries and the government?
I think both, right? Because when we talk about urban water community, every leakage at a tap or every uses of water which we try to attempt it, if we do a sensible action there, we will able to save millions of water. Why? Because you have seen urban water community uses 70% of water going into their needs. Even the numbers plots is that on an average it is more than 100 and 130 liters per day per person. It's kind of water calculations. If we try and do something there in terms of our uses, putting the assets at right, we will able to free millions of gallons of water for futures to come and avoid or the ease out the stress which is on the river, main water sources, or even a bore well.
Anand, this has been such an eye opening conversation. We are really privileged to have you here. But before we sign off, do you have a final thought that you'd like to leave with everyone?
I would say that treat water with respect. Recycling and reuse is not only about the technology, it's about the mindset. How you and me are treating water as a subject. How are we upscaling our knowledge about the facts and methods available for recycle and reuse? Let's optimize that. Aim for city which should have water positivity. Let's drive the solutions which allows city to be greener and future to be breathable.